Hello everyone, it's Friday, May 29th. This is your 3 News Now afternoon update. I'm Stephanie Haney here with the top headlines from WKYC.com and our WKYC app. We start off with the story that is capturing national attention related to the protests surrounding the death of George Floyd, a 46-year-old black man who died in police custody on Monday in Minneapolis. Protesters have now gotten at least one thing that they have been asking for throughout these demonstrations over the past several days. The Minneapolis police officer, who has been identified as the man in the video with his knee on Floyd's neck, has been arrested connected to the death of George Floyd. This was announced today after a press conference ended by the Minnesota Department of Public Safety Commissioner John Mark Harrington. It's former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin who has been arrested in connection with the death of George Floyd. There is no information at this time about specific charges. However, right about at this time, we are speaking to the county attorney. He is holding a press conference right now related to those charges, so there may be new information coming out right now about the charges that former officer Derek Chauvin will be facing. Multiple sources have confirmed that it is Chauvin who was seen in the video with his knee on George Floyd's neck, where bystander video shows George Floyd telling the police officer, "I can't breathe," while the officer remains with his knee on his neck, and George Floyd eventually died. Governor Tim Walz held a news conference this morning after a night of protests, some of which were violent in Minneapolis and St. Paul, over the death of George Floyd. He said that he received a call from one of the state senators that District 63 was burning and there were no officers or National Guard troops to help. So this morning in that press conference, Walz did say that tonight things need to be different, asking that order be restored now that we have this news that there has been an arrest made in connection with the case, which is what many protesters were calling for. Today, we expect to hear from Governor Mike DeWine at 2:30 p.m., not related to the typical news conferences we've gotten used to each day about the status of COVID-19 here in Ohio, but instead about demonstrations that have been taking place here in the state of Ohio. There was a demonstration in Columbus yesterday that was broken up by police where people could be heard chanting, "No justice, no peace, no racist police." Through the course of that demonstration, there was damage that was done to the State House. There were also local businesses that were affected with windows broken out, and the doors of the State House were also impacted. Bus stops, many places did sustain some damage during the demonstration in Columbus yesterday. So that's what Governor Mike DeWine is expected to address today. There is a demonstration that's currently scheduled for 2 p.m. tomorrow in Cleveland. That's near the waterfront by the Free Stamp on Lakeside. That's scheduled for 2 p.m. and that's being organized by Black Lives Matter. We do have more information about that on WKYC.com and the WKYC app. In the midst of this conversation, the families of George Floyd have been joined by the families of BREONNA Taylor and AHMAUD ARBERY to call people to end racial violence. Civil rights attorneys representing all three of those families held a virtual press conference today to discuss plans to pursue justice in the wake of these 3 deaths. The families issued a joint statement. They are calling for a congressional hearing and a national task force, which is geared at coming up with bipartisan legislation to target the goal of the pursuit of justice after these 3 deaths. As we just discussed, George Floyd, 46-year-old George Floyd, was killed on Monday while in police custody while he was not armed in the city of Minneapolis when an officer placed his knee on his neck, despite the fact that George continued to tell him that he could not breathe. To remind you the story of BREONNA Taylor, she was shot at least 8 times in March. That was when 3 Louisville Metro police officers forcibly entered her apartment to serve a search warrant for a narcotics investigation. The police department said that the officers were returning gunfire from BREONNA Taylor's boyfriend, who they say fired at them first. And then in the case of AHMAUD ARBERY, he was shot and killed in Brunswick, Georgia. That was on February 23rd. There was not an arrest made in that case until video came out. And that video did show Gregory McMichael, who is a former Glynn County law enforcement officer and district attorney's office employee, along with his son, Travick McMichael, holding a gun as Arbery ran along a road appearing to be jogging, and then Travis McMichael fired a shotgun, taking Arbery's life. So both of the McMichaels, along with the man who filmed the video, Roddy Bryan, are now charged with murder in Arbery's death, and all three of those deaths are currently under investigation. We should also note that there has been an FBI investigation opened into the death of George Floyd. Now we'll take a look at the latest COVID-19 numbers here in the state of Ohio. These numbers have just been released by the Ohio Department of Health. And over the last 24 hours, we have new cases up for the second day in a row. We have new deaths down. Hospitalizations are up and new ICU admissions are down. The total number of cases we now have reported in Ohio dating all the way back to March 9th is now 34,566. In the past 24 hours, as of 2 p.m., we've now seen a spike of 651 new cases reported of COVID-19. These are both probable and confirmed positive cases based on that expanded CDC definition. The total number of deaths in Ohio, now dating all the way back to March 9th, is now 2,131, which are related to COVID-19. So this is a decrease in new deaths reported today. We've seen 33 new deaths reported today as of 2 p.m. according to the Ohio Department of Health. That's down from yesterday when we saw 54 new deaths reported. The total number of hospitalizations dating all the way back to March 9th is now 5,947. With this number up significantly, there have been 136 new hospitalizations reported today. That's up from yesterday when we saw 111 new hospitalizations. Now on Thursday, the number was down. We saw 111 new hospitalizations on Thursday. We saw 121 new hospitalizations on Wednesday. So even though from Wednesday to Thursday we did see a slight decrease, that's still up significantly from what we saw on Tuesday when there were 68 new hospitalizations reported. In terms of new ICU admissions, there were 17 new ICU admissions reported today, bringing that total, which dates all the way back to March 9th, to now 1,533 people who have been admitted to the ICU related to COVID-19. If we take a look at the situation in the U.S. globally, new cases are up in the U.S. over the past 24 hours. Over the past 24 hours, as of 1 p.m., according to Johns Hopkins University, there have been 20,459 new cases of COVID-19 reported. So that brings the total number of cases reported in the U.S. to 1,729,000 roughly. The number of new deaths is slightly down across the U.S. We saw 1,092 new deaths reported in the last 24 hours, according to Johns Hopkins University, bringing the total number of deaths in the U.S. Now we are over that 100,000 mark to 101,963, so just teetering on the edge there of 102,000. As we take a look at these numbers and we think about what that means for the state of Ohio, the NFL continues to move forward with its plans to hopefully hold the NFL season uninterrupted, and the Cleveland Browns are now beginning Phase 1 of reopening. That's expected to start on June 1st. The Cleveland Browns facilities in Berea have been closed since mid-March due to COVID-19, but they will be opening back up on Monday at the main facility, as well as First Energy Stadium downtown, of course, where they play the game. So in a statement, Browns Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer David Jenkins said the facilities will reopen to a limited number of employees. So don't expect the entire team to be piling in there on Monday, but the team will continue to work with university hospitals to develop safe practices for additional returns so that they can get as many people into the facilities as possible to begin that more intense in-person training. Jenkins says that the team has thoroughly reviewed all the parameters and is working hard to ensure a safe reopening for the team, and that they are incredibly proud of all of the team's staff, coaches, and players who have been working hard in the past several months to keep themselves and their families safe while still working tirelessly from home. Of course, our 3 News special correspondent Emily Mayfield has shared glimpses of Baker Mayfield, who's been working out in the gym, keeping himself fit. We had a conversation with them. Jay Crawford caught up with Emily and Baker just last week, talking to them about how they're excited to get back to Cleveland. So we are definitely excited to welcome them back here as soon as possible. That's it for your 3 News Now afternoon update for Friday, May 29th. I'll see you next at 5 p.m. on What's New. You can catch that on Channel 3, also on our WKYC app, on WKYC.com, and on our YouTube page at youtube.com/user/WKYCTV. We'll have more for you on what matters most at 6 p.m., on Front Row at 7 p.m., and What's Next at 11 p.m. And I'll see you back here after the weekend on Monday at 11 a.m. right here for your 3 News Now early update. Everyone have a great rest of your afternoon. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you back here at 5 p.m. on What's New, and then back here on Monday. Have a great day, everyone. I'm Stephanie Haney.